News coming out of Ottawa involving students coming in, international students to our country, and word that the Trudeau government is once again cutting its own cap on the number of students that will be allowed into Canada, a cut of another 10%. In 2025, international student study permits will be reduced by 10% from the 2024 target of 485,000. That means that only 437,000 permits will be issued next year. Still a lot, but that number will be lower than what we've seen in the past, and that number will continue into the following year, 2026. Behind all this, of course, Canada's housing crisis, affordability concerns, and worries that too many international students are straining the system. It's something that the government is well aware of and has been under pressure to try and deal with. The government has announced recently a 2-year cap on international students, but again, they're choosing to extend it now and cut by another 10%. We're hearing from the immigration and employment ministers. Let's listen in for a moment there.
The Prime Minister said in August that the changes will come into effect on September 26th. He also said that the percentage of workers that businesses can have of foreign workers went down from 20% to 10%, and in census metropolitan regions where the unemployment is above 6%, we will not be processing these requests. I am confirming today that this change will also be in force in Quebec and in the streamlined processing system that does not have a cap.
Applicable to the traitement simplifié in Quebec, which currently does not have a cap limit. Nous avons également...
We also announced a reduction in the duration of the permits for low wages that goes from down to 1 year. This measure will exclude
Hope you're fine. I'm in low energy today, not just because of this video, but I'm not been well for the last few days. I'm hoping to get better, so forgive me if I don't sound energetic as I always do. I would not have done this video because of health issues, but I had to come out and do it because of how serious the video is. Apologize to anyone who has been looking to this for the last few hours. So this video is an announcement. It's just to elaborate on an announcement made by the Minister of Immigration, Honorable Mark Miller, and also the Minister of Employment there, Mr. Boissenot. You heard him in the CTV footage there. This announcement here, I know, has not gone down for a lot of international students. Many of you may have been panicking by now, but let me just start off and ask you, how are you doing? I hope you're fine. Without wasting time, I'll go straight into the key aspects of the announcement. Take a moment to hit the like button if you do like this video. Drop a comment as well, subscribe if you can as well. All right, so if you followed my channel, you may have noticed that I have been hinting about some of the sweeping changes coming. I personally thought that these changes came a little bit too early, not because I did not want the changes to happen. I just thought that the Liberal Party, which is in power, have a track record of just going high octane, like, steroid with immigration, like bringing in more and more people. So nobody would have thought that they would start cutting down their own target. That is why I thought it came a little bit too early. I had my prediction around the Liberal Party will lose power. And if they lose power and the Tories or the Conservatives come in, they will reform or clean up and straighten things up and bring some integrity to most of the programs. So I was kind of expecting most of these changes to actually happen in 2025. We're still in 2024 under the Liberal Party rule or government. And then it looks that they went very radical, reducing most of their own immigration targets. Let's go into the details. So yesterday, September 18, the Minister for Immigration made an announcement, and the title was that he is strengthening Forgive me on that one there. I actually wanted to record this video and post it, but like I said, I've just been figuring out the best way to get the right mood to get this video going. So forgive me so that's the title of the announcement yesterday: strengthening temporary residence programs for sustainable volumes. This was from yesterday. Strengthening temporary residence program for sustainable volume. And the details of it started the introduction. There is an introduction, a total of 3 paragraphs before the details actually kick in. So let me just take a bit of time and then read some of the introduction there, and then go into the highlights, the key highlights in the release, okay? What are the key highlights in there? All right. We are announcing a further reduction in intake cap on international student study permits for 2025 based on a 10% reduction from the 2024 target of 485,000 new study permits issued, and then stabilizing the intake cap for 2026 such that the number of study permits issued remains the same as 2025. This is the first point. This is the first announcement. This is the first thing or change they announced here. So at the beginning of this year, the minister came out with a target, said, look, the numbers are beyond control. He wants to bring the numbers down for international students in the country. And then he announced a 35% reduction. You guys remember that? 35% reduction in the volume of international students. We saw the number come to about 485,000 for 2024. We are told that there will be a further 10% reduction for the 2025 intake, meaning that there will be more visas issued next year for international students as compared to this year. So if you do the math, 35% reduction, now we put 10% more on top for 2025. That's roughly 45% intake reduction there. Now, what will be the new figures in 2025? The new figures there, they were hoping to issue study permit to 437,000. All right. So when you look at the numbers there, we've come a long way within a short time. Somewhere around 2023, we're talking about what? Almost 1 million international students in the system here. 2025, we'll be talking about 437 international students. So if you look at the volume there, that is a big reduction. All right. Anyway, that's the first announcement there. More reduction for international students, okay? Now, let's look at the second point. The second point here. The second point. The second point has to do with postgraduate work permit. If you are already an international student, or you are yet to become one, or you are just about finishing, brace up, because these changes here also affect those who are spouses of international students and those who are hoping to get their postgraduate work permit. So let me read the second one here. Updating the post-graduation work permit program this fall, which means this season of fall, to better align with immigration goals and labor markets. Third point, they will be limiting work permit eligibility later this year to spouses of master's degree students, to only those whose program is at least 16 months in duration. This is a big change. For those who do not understand this particular announcement here, this very one on postgraduate work permit, let me explain. So earlier this year, in the first quarter of this year, the minister's announcement said that they were scrapping up the work permit for spouses of international students at college levels and university bachelor's level, okay? Way before then, you could come to study in Canada and bring your spouse with you who will qualify for an open work permit if you are at a college. If you were also at the university level doing even a bachelor's, you could still bring your spouse whilst you were in school, and your spouse could be working to support the family as you are here. Now, earlier this year, the minister announced that they were scrapping the opportunity for international student spouses to get an open work permit whilst their partners are in school at the college and bachelor's level. They only made it available to those who are at the master's level, at the PhDs, and what have you, and some specialized programs. Now, with this new announcement, pay attention carefully. If you are doing your master's and you're hoping that you're going to use that opportunity to bring your spouse or your wife or your husband in, so that whilst you are doing your master's, your partner is able to get an open work permit to be working whilst you are in school as a master's student, the new development is that they will no longer issue an open work permit to your spouses if the program you are studying is not a 2-year program. They said if your program is not at least 16 months, your spouse will not be eligible for an open work permit. My interpretation or understanding of that is that they're basically saying anybody who is studying a master's and your duration of your master's is 1 year, like I did. I did a 1-year master's when I was here. So assuming I was doing that same 1-year master's right now, and I was married and I was bringing my spouse in, forget it. Your spouse will not be eligible for an open work permit. Basically, they're making it a little bit more difficult at that level as well for masters. So therefore, if you're doing a 2 years master's right now, or you're about to start one, and your spouse is somebody you want to come in, then you can still bring your spouse on an open work permit. But if it's a 1-year program or less than 16 months, unfortunately, per the changes to the open work permit for spouses of master's degree students, you will no longer be eligible for that under this new announcement. The third one under the same work permit has to do with temporary foreign workers in Canada. Temporary foreign workers. There are some people who are in Canada and they are not spouses of international students. They are generally holders of a work permit. Just because they earned it, they applied for jobs and they came in either as temporary laborers or temporary foreign workers. Or some may have come under some international mobility programs. Let's hear the third one as well for you guys. They will be limiting work permit eligibility later this year to spouses of foreign workers in management or professional occupations or in sectors with labor shortages. Under Canada's work permit program, into bracket temporary foreign work program, and an IMP. So basically, here, they're saying that if you are somebody who is holding a temporary foreign work permit or an IMP as an international mobility, whatever, okay, your spouses will no longer be eligible for just an open work permit to let them work. We will only issue it to them if they occupy or they are seeking to work in jobs that are considered to be management positions or professional occupations. You know, a professional, anything that requires a serious license to practice in Canada, or in sectors that are deemed to be under the labor shortage list. These are the only people who will be getting it as spouses if you yourself are a temporary foreign worker or hold an IMP type of work visa. Now, this is a drastic departure from 2022 November. Do you remember what happened in 2022 November? Let me take you back and show you. So in November 2022, I believe that was December, yeah. In December 2022, okay. This is what happened in December 2022, just 2 years ago, actually less than 2 years ago, all right? As you read that, let me tell you what happened there. So in December 2022, under the then Minister of Immigration, Honorable Sean Fraser, the announcement was made in Edmonton. Now, the pace of Canada's economic recovery, I'm reading that for you. It's on the screen. I'm reading it. The pace of Canada's economic recovery has made it hard for employers, including those in the tourism industry, to find workers they need. Sorry. The Honorable Sean Fraser, Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship, and the Honorable Randy Boissonot, Minister of Tourism and Associate Minister of Finance, Minister of Tourism and Associate Minister of Finance. Okay, so at the time, the minister that we have now for employment was then with tourism. All right. announced that Canada is extending work permits to family members of temporary foreign workers, expanding the eligibility for work permits to family members according to the principal applicant to Canada. Wow. So just 2 years ago, they were expanding the requirements for people to come in as temporary foreign workers and for their families to also come in. All right? And they justified it. They gave some really good reasons, or they gave some reasons. They said, prior to this announcement, spouses were only eligible for a work permit if the principal applicant was working in a high-skill occupation. Does it ring a bell? Management positions, professional positions, and stuff. Before this announcement in 2022, spouses of applicants who were working in, okay, now let me continue. This temporary measure aims to improve the emotional well-being, physical health, and financial stability of workers by keeping families together. As a result, it is expected that the worker will better integrate into the overall work environment and community. Starting in January 2023, through a temporary 2-year measure, Canada will expand eligibility to work in Canada to spouses and working-age children. Working-age children through a phased approach for workers at all scales. Pay attention to this one here. At all scales. This will include families of workers in healthcare, trades, and hospitality, for example. As a result of this new approach, it is estimated that family members of more than 200 foreign workers, okay, could begin working in Canada, offering a greater opportunity for both foreign workers seeking to work in Canada and for employers addressing the labor needs. The temporary measure will be implemented in 3 phases to ensure a successful implementation. Phase 1 will enable family members of workers coming to Canada through the high-wage stream of the Temporary Foreign Workers Program of International Mobility Program to apply for an open work permit. Phase 2 aims to expand the measure to the family members of workers from low-wage stream of Temporary Foreign Workers Program. So phase 2, low wage. You see, low wage. Okay, and phase 3. What's phase 3? So they were going to actually expand opportunity for family members, their spouses, even their children, to get work permits to work in even low wage streams or sectors. All right. Phase 3. They will be consulting with agricultural partners and stakeholders to assess operational feasibility for expanding the measure for family members of agriculture. All right. So guys, the reason why I brought this slide just to show you is for you to contrast the radical, or what you call the changes right now in 2024 September against the 2022. So 2022, not only was the government, same government, not a different government, bringing in more foreign workers, temporary foreign workers and international mobility folks, but then they also sought to expand opportunities for their spouses to get work permit, and they expected over probably 200,000 plus. You saw it in the data, the projection. They were even going to make it easy for them to have their children who are of working age to also get work permit. Now, if you were a foreigner in Canada, this was good news for you. But what happened within 24, actually less than 24 months? How come there has been a complete U-turn? Most likely because there is a new minister in office, different from the one who made the previous announcement. And the new minister, Mac Miller, thinks the numbers are unsustainable. There's so much going on in Canada right now, and these are times to slow down immigration. You see, there is something about a Liberal government. For you to think of a Liberal government being like, I don't know, they are not known for slowing down immigration. Take a moment and just look around the world and see what the Liberal governments have been doing in the Western countries. They are not known for slowing down immigration. So it's very, very uncommon that we are seeing the Liberal government set their own targets, right? and then drastically changes. Something is the reason behind this. I will share my own opinion as this video goes on. But for now, let me just get back to reading the announcements that came for you, okay? Sorry about that sidetracking by bringing in the old stuff there. I know you guys are interested in all the changes with the cap. Let me just go on there. All right. So summary of this point here, if you are holding a temporary foreign work permit or you are an international mobility permit holder, your spouses will no longer be eligible. Now, what this means is that those of you who are LMI holders with spouses, we want to bring them in, unfortunately, it's more difficult now. If your spouse is not somebody in management position, a professional position, occupation, or sorry, in a professional occupation, you know what professional occupations are. Those who have even come here on permanent residency as medical doctors and dentists will tell you it's not easy for them to transition. So just imagine you on a work permit trying to get your spouse in. It's difficult. All I'm trying to say is difficult already. And finally, they will only issue it if they are working in sectors that are on labor shortage list, right? Meaning that it's going to be more difficult for you to get permits for. Now, the next area, which is the third one, started with a paragraph. Like many countries, Canada is experiencing more asylum claims as the number of displaced people worldwide continues to grow. And that contributes to growing temporary resident volumes to align with our humanitarian, blah, blah, blah. So it starts with that preamble. And then it continues by saying that we're working on several measures to address integrity issues and to strengthen the Canada asylum system, including, then it gave about 4 points there for strengthening that. First of all, they will be implementing a partial visa requirement for Mexican nationals. Before, some Mexican nationals did not need a visa to come to Canada, but they've realized that a lot of people are probably abusing this, seeking asylum when they come in and blah, blah, blah. So they are closing that loophole there. Mexican nationals, some of you will now need visa to come to Canada. The second one is that they will also be improving claims processing while maintaining the fairness and integrity of the asylum system as announced in 2024. They will be improving claims processing while maintaining the fairness and integrity of the asylum system as announced. There is anything at all for you to take away from this, or my opinion, my personal opinion here? What do they mean by they will be improving claims processing? We don't know for sure. What do they mean by integrity of the asylum system? We don't know for sure. But what I have been suggesting or hinting could happen is that they will be throwing a lot more bogus asylum seekers out of the country real fast. Bogus asylum claims, the fake asylum claims, just look out. They will be streamlined. And I've hinted it. They're going to make things a bit more faster because people could put in maybe fake asylum claims and play around the rules and the system and be in the country for many, many, many years. Right now, they're going to make things faster. I'm not saying this is exactly what they said. I'm saying, okay, just so you don't quote me, I read what they said here, but I'm hinting that they will be streamlining things faster. Asylum processing will be quicker and faster. Those that are genuine, those that are not, basically, that's what I think will happen. All right. Yeah. Now, the introduction here said that there are displaced people and as worldwide refugee, number of displaced people worldwide continues to grow, and that contributes to growing temporary resident volumes. Well, and I could share my own opinion about it. Look, since the last video I did, and this one, I have undergone a lot of education myself. I've taken time to just study a bit more. I've been focused more on Canada's immigration because I live in Canada and I'm a product of immigration myself, all right? But I just decided, look, guys, if you really want to know what's happening in Canada, go take a look at my previous video. Majority of the comments under the video came from Canadians themselves. I normally don't get Canadians watching my videos. Majority of people who commented, more than 90% of people who commented were Canadians. Go watch it. You see people frustrated, pouring their was as if people were, but it gave me a bit of time to just sit down and then, is there something me myself I'm missing as a content creator? Or as a Canadian myself, am I missing something? So I went and I did a lot of research. And what I found is shocking. It's shocking. My own personal research has shown me that almost all liberal parties or political parties in the West are just bent on just flooding the countries with illegal immigrants. It is what it is. Look, guys, let's close the chapter 1. Maybe I shouldn't talk about this in this particular video. You guys are just here looking for, let's look at the U.S. Look at what is happening. Look at Kamala Harris and his people and her people. Right? Borders with no, basically open borders. And look, I'm an immigrant. I'm against it. I'm being honest with you. I came here under the Stephen Harper regime, 2014. When I came here, was a different prime minister, not Trudeau. Trudeau came a year and a half later. Right? I came genuinely on merit. We didn't have to, how do you know what I mean, undermine a country's immigration system to get in. Go take a look at what is happening in the West. Look at the UK. Are you happy seeing what is happening in the UK? These are the countries that many of us are hoping to have a second life to establish ourselves. And it's like they have a playbook. It's like they have a playbook. Look, notice I'm not saying legal migration. Canadians have been they've been celebrated for having some of the best immigration programs in the world, to the point that countries came to Canada to study. Germany came here to study. Recently, Germany sent some of their envoys here, come and study how Canada did it. Other countries have come here to study how Canada has done it for years. So Canada's legal migration program is not a question here. But when you have political parties that use weaponized politics and policies to undermine the country's economy, letting in all kinds of people in the country, I'm against it. Doesn't matter if you're black or white, I'm against it. Because when they come in, they screw up things for everybody. Canadians don't get angry easily, huh? But when they do, it's not funny. You just take a moment and check the pulse of Canadians. You know how angry people are. If election was conducted today, this current government will lose by as much as 15 points or so. That's the anger level of Canadians. You don't take away jobs that belongs to Canadians and give it to people who normally would not have qualified for those jobs. Now, sadly, that is the situation we're finding ourselves in. Those were the days, gone were the days when Canadians, youth, who were in secondary school or had just started university or college, will have jobs at Tim Hortons and name all these corporations. And they were helping with their student loans and stuff at the university colleges. But look at it, we've spoiled all that place now. Maybe I should mention big corporations that have played a role in this as well. All these corporations that have manipulated governments here and there to create fake labor shortages when there is none. You see where we all find ourselves today? Now we see the anger of Canadians now. Now, a Canadian youth, look at the unemployment. Just Google unemployment among Canadian youth and see where the numbers are crazy. It was as if nobody was paying. And yet we kept 2022, we kept creating the impression that, no, but the reality is that it's not that there is labor shortage. Just that people want to pay corporations. Company, you know how companies work? They will always want to pay low. They want to squeeze employees out and pay them low. That is why some of them are bringing all this cheap labor. Because it's cheap labor. Do you know how many companies here in Canada have outsourced jobs to different countries just because they want to pay low wage? They will rather pay $1 for the job done than to pay somebody $16, $17, $18 in Canada. And when you do this, not only are you hurting the Canadian economy, but you're destroying the economy where you yourself as a company you establish. We need to call this out. I make immigration, but I don't support nonsense. I don't. I said, look, even if you don't want to just look at the bigger picture here, guys, just take a look at the United States. Look at what is happening. How many illegal immigrants are coming in? They don't want to deal with the border. Because one party is a beneficiary. Bring in all the illegal immigrants. All the illegal immigrants. They are not even selecting the best of immigrants. Horrible immigrants. Some of them horrible. People who are committing all kinds of crimes within days when they get a chance to cross the border illegally. And then speed up their citizenship journey. Naturalize them as fast as you can so they can vote for you. No way. You don't get people like me voting for nonsense like this. Some of us who are immigrants who came here the proper way, we are educated to be able to see in between the lines at the right time. And anybody should be able to call this out. We cannot say that because there is a wide, look, there are wars all over now, isn't it? But that's not the reason why people are just, it's because liberal parties when they have, or liberal party, political party, when they have their meeting, their bread and butter is from illegal immigration. I am saying this. Challenge me by telling me I'm wrong. Mention countries that have done legal immigration and have had to deal with some of the problems we are dealing with today in Canada and US and UK. It is only when you begin to open the borders and make it, people just flooding like that. It's nonsense. My country, Ghana, will not even do this. They said they are going to be working on maintaining the fairness and integrity of the asylum system. Those of you who have sought asylum, look forward to some changes there. The next one. They will be reviewing visa decision making so that our highly trained officers have the right tools to detect fraud and to reduce the number of non-genuine visitors. I've been talking about visitors visa, isn't it? Yeah, visitors visa, watch out as well. Here is my prediction based on just this line that I read. It simply means there will be a lot more visa refusals for visitors visa applicants. Why? Because they'll be catching a lot of the fraudulent applications, most likely. They will be equipping the officers who make the visa decisions better to be able to detect those who are genuinely coming to visit Canada and going back, or visiting families, and those who are just making all kinds of non-genuine visitor visa application. Yeah. Remember 2020, 2021, there about when there were several thousands of visitor visas in the system, backlog, and then they just approved many. Who knows? Maybe they've started detecting that majority of those applications were not genuine, or maybe they've looked at the data, majority of people who were not necessarily fleeing war, but came by flight, are all becoming asylum seekers overnight instead of visiting. You see what I mean? It is what it is. You have to say it. We are not talking about people who are fleeing war. We are talking about people who bought tickets and flew in. It is what it is. It is what it is. Finally, under that same measure, they said they will be exploring more measures to further strengthen visa integrity. All right. So guys, that is the broad list of changes that were made. But then they also added something at the end. The link is available in the description box of my YouTube channel, so take a look at it. This part, which is supposed to be a summary, has some very useful information that I like to read. Graduates from post-graduation, okay, let me take my time. Graduates from programs at public colleges will remain eligible for a post-graduation work permit of up to 3 years if they graduate from a field of study linked to occupations in long-term shortage. Let me explain. Effective from November 1, 2024, all right? Because that is the data they have here. The data appears to be part of a different paragraph, but I'm suspecting this is kicking in right away. Okay, let me show it to you for you to read. This is under their quick summary portion. And at this same announcement, when you get to the bottom, there's a quick summary, the quick fact. Graduates from programs at public colleges will remain eligible for a post-graduation work permit of up to 3 years if they graduate from a field of study linked to occupations in long-term shortage. What does it mean? Do you remember the video that I did some time back saying that they will likely implement these changes? They were consulting at that time as to whether to introduce a coding or a categorization where they are able to classify programs offered by schools in Canada or DLI, designated learning institutions in Canada at the post-secondary level, to link them to the Canadian economy to see which of them falls under sectors that are in high demand or critical to Canada. And I said, we don't know when they will implement it, but right now it looks like the time is now. So therefore, if the course you are studying is not a course that is linked to occupations in industries that are considered to be industries of shortage labor, like labor shortages or have labor shortages, then unfortunately, you will not get your postgraduate work permit. Yes. Now, let me tell you the impact of this. And I'll say it just as they are. When I did that last video, hinting that this particular change was going to come, I mentioned that there were certain bogus programs that were being run by some of the known colleges. Not only them, some of the college males or these private colleges as well. And these programs had no bearing on Canada's job market. They didn't have real prospects, demand, and then students were still being issued study permits to come and take these courses, paying several thousands of dollars, close to $20,000 or more, to run these courses. And then when they finish, they will not get jobs in the fields they study. Some of them will end up working at McDonald's or doing Uber and stuff to survive. Now, the overall implication is that when it got to the stage where they were hoping to apply for permanent residency, most of these students were just not competitive enough to get their PR. They will be in the pool and will be bypassed and bypassed and bypassed. Why? Because they are working jobs that are not classified as jobs in high demand in Canada. Or not only that, some of them study courses that are completely out of tune or disconnected from the labor market. So this, in my opinion, will send a lot of colleges, departments, or programs out of business. Some of my followers have already hinted me and said, Choco, based on the previous video you did hinting about some of these programs, many of my colleagues who are international students withdrew from their programs at their schools and requested the schools to change their programs for them. You guys watching me, you know it by now. Some of your schools have canceled the entire department programs since I did that video, because some of us were telling the truth as it is. If you are studying a useless program, there will be no pathway for you to get your permanent residency. Simple as that. Now, don't come and ask me which program they are. It is your responsibility to go and do your research, to ask yourself, the program that I'm studying, what is it going to lead me to in Canada? Number 2, when I apply for a job, what job am I getting? 3, is that job considered a high in-demand job in Canada, or just one of the jobs that flood the market and makes it difficult for me? It is up to you to do that research. All I can say is that the announcement is saying that they will only give postgraduate work permit to those who are studying courses that are in high demand, that are linked to occupations in long-term shortage. Long-term shortage. I talked about the industries that are in that ballpark of long-term shortage or for the next few years are industry. Healthcare is one of them. Trades is one of them. So those of you who are in construction, carpentry, renovation, welding, all these jobs that Canadians have real need for. Canada is in the phase of rebuilding now post-COVID. We have housing crisis too. So a lot more jobs will be created in those areas. Healthcare, technology, science, technology, math, or engineering, these are the areas. If you are studying courses that are in business, you want to think twice, especially if it's at a college level. Think twice simply means, doesn't mean don't do them. It simply means do a bit more research to find out whether your course is in a field that is in high demand in some provinces in Canada. Don't just go and drop your business courses because you watched the video. I am giving you the challenge. I'm putting the challenge on you to do your research to us. For the other provinces where some of the business programs could be ideally okay for you, but maybe not in a lot of provinces. So do that research yourself. All right. Now, the next one has to do with language test requirement for those of you who will be applying for postgraduate work permit, effective from November 1 on November 1st. As part of changes to the postgraduate work permit program, all applicants will be required to demonstrate a minimum language proficiency in French or English. This will increase the ability to transition to permanent residency and adapt to change economic conditions. The Canadian language benchmark, level 7 for university graduates and level 5 for college. All right, so this one is a totally new one. Since the postgraduate work permit was instituted and even modified in 2009 thereabout, there was not a requirement for people to write a language test before applying for the postgraduate work permit. But now you heard it, there is a requirement now. Before you apply for a postgraduate work permit, you will need to actually take the language test and pass. If your program of study is at the university, let's say a bachelor's or PhD or a master's, or a postgraduate program or a graduate certificate program at the university level, you will need to write a language test and pass at a benchmark, Canadian benchmark level 7. That's the average. You should have an average of 7. Whether it's IELTS or whatever, just make sure you know the equivalent for whichever test you use. If you are in a college, the requirements are a little bit more lower. It's CLB, which is Canadian Language Benchmark 5, whether English or French. Now, they said it is supposed to make it easier for you to get your permanent residence. I think otherwise. Why? Because aside from refugees, how many people have gotten permanent residence without taking a language test? Aside from refugees, how many people have had the exemption to get a permanent residency? It looks to me that international students were already having to take language tests to get their PR. So when we say this is to make it easier for, I don't know, I just disagree. I just think otherwise. I have the right to disagree. Tell me if you don't live in Canada. We live in we live in Canada where there is all kind of censorship on things you can even say. So sometimes we don't even know whether we are allowed to say some things or share opinions. Crazy times that we live in now, right? It looks to me that this is another way to just cut down the number of people who will be getting their postgraduate work permit. That's how I just see it. There will be some people who will be writing the language test and will not pass. Now, could this also be another way of doing another integrity assessment or check from the schools? Because we know it is possible to use fake admissions to come to Canada, isn't it? So if somebody had used, let's say, a fake admission to come to Canada, and they say they have graduated, now we ask them to take their IELTS language test. Once they are in, you need to take your language test to pass to get your postgraduate work permit. And if you've been watching, you know some people have a way around. Fake. So maybe when you come to Canada, try getting a fake language test as well in Canada, and let's see whether you can. Now, guys, this is a summary of it. If you're watching this video, you're probably scared and worried what times we are in. It makes more sense to me now, given all the changes that are happening. Nobody is talking about, there are many things that were not mentioned in the announcement. I will do another video probably to share my opinion on that. The one thing that we haven't seen is more diversity in visa issuance. How did we get to 1 million, almost 1 million international students at some point in 2023? How did we get there? How did we have an ambitious goal that will bring in so many immigrants within this time? And how come when you look at visas that are issued, it looks like only 1 or 2 countries are monopolizing it? What is happening? Why is that the case? Why is it that when you take visa applications or whatever, maybe one country alone is monopolizing it? About 50% or so of visas go to just one country. There is no mention of diversity. There is no mention of diversity in the visa issuance. All we see is just drastic measures taken. What do you think about it? Let's talk about it. Is it fair that one country or one or two countries, and this is all feeding into the anger of Canadians here. I'm not deceiving you. Go around. Canadians are hungry. Because they are tired just seeing one or two countries monopolizing everything around. So maybe we need to get to the point where there is a bit more fairness, you know, spread it around. It is what it is. Or don't think I should talk about this? No problem. Won't talk about it. All I know is that Canadians are different from Americans. Canada's political system is also different from America's. It's not like America where you got only two you got only two options. Here in Canada, the options are quite different. You know what I mean? A lot more than two. They can kick you out. Now, what explains all these drastic changes from their own policy in 2022? I think it is because they are scared they will lose power. If elections were conducted today, they already lose. They've already lost. Would they lose? Yes. Even with all these changes, would they still lose? I say yes, they will still lose. Because right now, the decision they've made has a long-term implication. And let me share. I'm going to say it as it is. And I don't care whoever gets offended, I'll say it. Let me tell you how they are actually making their own chances more worse. Now they have angered Canadians. Canadians are angry at the lack of control. Okay? Maybe I should show you some data. Okay? Permit me to show you data. Remember I told you I came under the Harper government, all right? Let me move the slide to this side a bit. Okay. Guys, I came in 2014. At the time that I came in, the government that was in power was the Conservatives. The Conservatives has also brought immigration numbers. But not this. Look at it. The first quarter of 2006 and in the end, by the end, the ending quarter of third quarter of 2015, that is 9 and whatever it is. Look at the data right here. Stephen Harper, the prime minister who was in charge at the time I came to Canada in 2014, was bringing in an average of 244,000 immigrants into the country. We are currently looking at the Liberal government under Trudeau. Look at the average, 474,000. That is twice. More than twice, actually. This is nearly double the rate. The borders were closed for over a year. Imagine if COVID... Now, look, these numbers, this was even when for almost 2 years, the borders were closed and people couldn't come in. So imagine if there was no COVID, the numbers would have actually been crazy. Imagine if Canadians were not actually even angry, the numbers would have been even crazier. Now, remember here, all Canadian governments in the past have brought in immigrants. But what Canadians are more worried about is the number of illegal immigrants who are coming in. The same concern that the United States has, the same concern that the UK governments have, the same concerns that almost every Western country is having right now. What do they have in common? Liberal policies. What are these liberal policies? I think Canada is a little bit better in terms of, but America, is it our neighbors here? Our neighbors in the South? Theirs is even crazy. Theirs is even crazy. Millions. And some of these people who are coming in, the profiles are terrible. Have you heard of some of the crimes they're committing just days into the country? Who does this? Whilst those who actually use legal means to come into the country, work for it, came to do their PhDs, what we call the high end of Canadian immigrants, people come in, they work their socks off to raise families and stuff, and all of a sudden all these things are being turned. Why? Because that's the data right here. I can go on and show you a lot more data. You see it? So I think this government, even though is hoping that this will give it a bit more, of chance to bounce back for elections, I think it will still have almost a no effect. Canadians are already done with them. Secondly, they have also put international students and a lot of immigrants in a tight spot that will probably punish them in the future. Just think of somebody who is an international student who came with a spouse, and all of a sudden the spouse who was working is no longer able to work because government made changes to immigration policies, and these spouses cannot work. They have bills they cannot pay. They came to study programs hoping that some of these programs will have real opportunity for them. And all of a sudden we're told that, well, if you didn't study a certain type of program, you will not get a postgraduate work permit. No problem. But if some of these guys make it long enough to hang around, some of them are actually going to stick it right at these governments or these political parties during election time. All I'm saying is that these guys who are going through all these difficult moments right now, just because of government policies or political party decisions, in the next 3-4 years, some of them will be in positions where they will have to make decisions about voting. And some of them will remember the Liberal Party for how inconsistent they were in handling some of this. Did we have labor shortages? Maybe yes. Was it maybe Canadians were asking for something else? Maybe Canadians were asking that train our people better, offer people the opportunity, pay people better, because cost of living has gone up. But instead, corporations are able to just it doesn't make sense, guys. I saw a video from Nova Scotia, and then this restaurant owner said he cannot find a chef. Do you know how many chefs we have in Ontario looking for jobs? How do you tell me there is no chef in Canada? You can't find them. It doesn't make sense. And then they put these videos in the media, and some useless media houses will go and interview them and then create a spin, and then the government will start issue LMIA for those positions. LMIs that end up being sold for $30,000 for these foreign workers to come and work, whilst there are maybe permanent residents or international students who studied culinary courses looking for jobs, and we bypass all these people and then we give it to foreigners who come in and then they take this job, and then you expect Canadians to be happy? They wouldn't be. They won't be happy. It is what it is. If you're watching me right now, you're an international student, and you just started your program, and you know your course is not in an industry or in a field that is linked to a high demand or shortage industry, start thinking twice. Should you change your program? Or should you make yourself more skilled by taking on other courses on the side to make yourself more relevant? The times to come are tough. And remember, the Conservatives will come to power. And when they come, they will stabilize things even better, more better. When I say they will stabilize, just remember the data that I just showed you. It was going to go back to the old school days where it was more difficult to get Canadian visas. It's not going to be visas that are just issued. A lot of schools are going to go out of business, I predict. A lot of schools will go out of business. A lot of departments and programs will shut. In fact, right after this video you're watching, a lot of you will start making moves to change programs. I'm not scaring you. It is what it is. You know some of the courses you are studying are extremely useless courses, but they are busily increasing their school fees. Last year, school fees, $17,000. How much is it this year? $19,000, isn't it? They added $2,000 more on top because it's more money for them. And they don't care. They don't even offer any support to these international students. Some of them get stranded. I sit here, I don't get a penny from anybody, no government institution. You know what I do in my own capacity? Do you know how many international students I've taken to offer them a place to sleep? Because they can't even afford XYZ. School fees are being increased day and night. So it is not everything that I decide to even put online. And then I ask whether these these schools have departments that actually monitor the concerns of international students. They are busy increasing school fees, busy in employing new faculty members to come and teach, creating new bogus departments. And folks like me who have been reminding them and telling them all this long time, they won't. One of the schools, I'm tempted to mention the name. You've closed 1 or 2 programs already, isn't it? Just because I mentioned those programs. You've closed them already. Why? Because you've lost all your market. Tag your friends in this and share. All right? Share this video with your friends and tag. Don't panic. You are just, international students, you are just in the middle, especially those of you from Africa, you are just in the middle. Majority of the international students in this country are from Asia as well. You know yourselves. Some of you are in the middle of this. You didn't plan to be in a mix of all this nonsense or mess. But this is the result of politics, inconsistent policies. You know what I mean? You have to unfortunately bear the brunt of everything and go through it. Get all the counseling you can, make the right decisions, speak with coaches, speak with experts, figure out how you can navigate your life through tough times we live in. But they say hard times create tough men, isn't it? Hopefully you come out tough. My name is Choco. I wish you all the best and take care. Bye.